Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how I make this peplum top with wide leg pants. So if you'd like to make one for yourself, grab your fabric and your sewing machine. Let's get into it. I'll begin by marking a starting line, and this line is going to serve as my shoulder line. From that line, I'll go down and mark my chest line, my bust point line, my under bust line, my waistline, and I'll add half an inch for joining allowance. I'll repeat the same thing on this other side, and then I'll connect the points together. On the shoulder line, I'm going to mark my shoulder to shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I'll put the same thing on the chest line and connect. On this line I just created, I'll come down by 1 inch to create my shoulder slope, and for the neck width I'll use 3.5 inches and I'll connect these points together. Now I'm going to find the center of this line here. I'll go in by half of an inch and create my arm curve. On the chest line here, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. And on the waistline, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Now I'm also going to mark my nip to nip measurement, and I'll connect these points together. Okay, so on the waistline here, I'll take half an inch on both sides of that line that I just drew. On the under bust line, I'll also use half of an inch on both sides. Now from the bust line here, I'll come down by 1 inch and I'll connect these points together. Now the 1 inch that I used for darts here, I'm going to replace it back here. And on the bust point line, I'll go up by 1 inch, and this is to create the darts that will come from the armhole area. Alright, so now from this point here, I'm going to go up by 1.5 inches. And I'll take 0.7 inch on both sides of that point. Afterwards, I'll connect it into this point. Now I'm going to connect this point here to my chest line to create the opening for my neckline area. But if you want yours more open, you can go down 1 inch from the chest line, or you can even take it to your bust point line. But I'm using my chest line. Now I'm going to shorten this shoulder line here. I don't want it as wide, so I'm going to be shortening it by 2 inches. And before I proceed, I'll just come down to my waist area here to add my sewing allowance so I don't forget. Alright, so now I'm going to connect this point into this armhole area to create my new armhole. But before I do that, I'll come down by 1 inch from the chest line because I don't want the armhole area to be too tight. I don't want it too high. So now I'm going to connect the points and create my new arm curve. I'll add sewing allowance all around this pattern and then I'll cut it out. Now for drafting the back of the top, I'll begin by marking a starting line, and this line is going to be my chest line, not my shoulder line. So I'm going to place my tape on this line, and I'll be placing my chest line, so which is 9 inches. So from that point, I'll come down and mark my waistline. I'll mark the same thing on this other side. And then I'll mark 1/2 inch for joining allowance, just the same way I marked for the front pattern. Now I'm going to connect these points together. Okay, I'm going to mark my zip allowance first, and I'm using 1 inch. Alright, so it's time to insert my horizontal measurements, and I'll be inserting them from this new line that I just drew. So I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and on the waistline, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Now I'm going to mark my nip to nip measurement on the waistline and also on the chest line, and I'll connect. I'm going to take 1/2 inch on both sides to create my dart, and then I'll connect. So now the 1 inch that I used for my dart here, I'm going to replace it to the side. I'll also do the same thing on the chest line, and I'll connect these points together. So on the side chest area here, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. If you can remember, I did the same thing for the front pattern. Now for this side here, I don't want the back to be too straight, so I want it a little bit curved. So I'm going to come down by 2 inches from the chest line here, and I'm going to connect that into the side. The final thing I'm going to do is add my sewing allowance all round and cut this pattern out. I've cut out my pattern on fabric, and I've added joining allowance to join the darts together, and this is my back piece. For the front piece, I have this part here on fold, and I've also added joining allowance to join the darts together. So I'm just opening it up so you can see that it's on fold. I have 2 pieces of this one, and I have 2 pieces each for the back. To begin sewing, I'm going to open the center piece. I'll take the 2 side pieces and lay them on top, and I'm going to be sewing along the side. I'll also do the same thing for the back piece. After sewing the darts down, I'll take the back piece and lay it right sides to the front piece, and I'm going to sew down the sides of this top. For the peplum of the top, I have the dimensions written down on the screen. So I'll be folding this in half, and when I fold this in half, it's going to give me the total length that I would want for my peplum. So it just depends on what you want. So after doing that, I'm going to gather up this top part here, and after gathering, I'm going to come back and show you what it'll look like. So I'm done gathering, and this is what it's looking like. So now I'm going to attach this peplum part to the upper part of the top, and I'll be doing this by placing them right sides together. Okay, so after joining it together, this is what it looks like. The next thing I'm going to do is attach my bias to the armhole area and the neckline area. This is what I'm going to use to create my strap, and I'll put the dimensions on the screen. I have my straps all done now. I'll be attaching them to my top. For the trouser pattern, I'll start by marking my waistline, and from that waistline I'll come down and mark my crotch line. I'll mark the same thing on this side and connect. From the crotch line, I'll come down about 3 inches to mark my thigh line. On the crotch line, I'm going to mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and I'll put the same thing on the waistline and connect. From this line that I just drew, I'm going to insert my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'll connect that into the crotch line. Now to get my crotch extension, I'm going to divide what I have here. So the total I have here, I'll divide that by 4, and whatever I have is what I'm going to place down for the crotch extension. After doing that, I'll create my crotch curve. Now I'm going to measure the total I have on the crotch line here and divide that by 2 so I can get the center of my trouser. Now I'm just going to put down the same thing I have on the crotch line down here on the thigh line, and I'll also insert the same thing at the bottom of the trouser, and then I'll connect. Now for drafting the back pattern, I'm going to come down from the very top of the paper here by 1 inch, and then I'll take the front pattern and place it on that line, leaving a little space in front here. Now the first thing I'm going to do is extend the crotch line on both sides. For the back crotch extension, I'm going to come out by 2.5 inches here, and from that point I'll come down and mark 0.5 inch. Now at the very top here where the front pattern ends, so this edge here, I'm going to go inward from that point by 2 inches. And this 2 inches that I took here, I'm going to replace it on this other side. Okay, after that has been sorted, now I'm going to connect these 2 points together. Now from this 2 inch that I came in by, I'm going to create the back crotch curve. Now I'm going to come out by 1 inch and connect that into the crotch extension. I'll also come out by 1 inch on this side, and I'll connect that into the waistline. Now I'm going to measure what I have here so I can know the extra that I'll need to add to get my full trouser. So this is the fabric I'll be using, and as you can see, I've added the extra length at the bottom, and I've also added sewing allowance all round. Now I'll take this to my sewing machine and sew down the crotch area. Now I'm going to sew down the sides of the trouser, and I'll also sew down the crotch area. I'll measure 8 inches down from the waistline, and that is where I'll be inserting my zip. So I'm going to take my seam ripper and open up that area. Now I'm going to insert my zip. After inserting my zip, now I'm going to bias the waistline. After biasing the waistline, I'll hem the bottom of the trouser, and that's it guys. This is the finished look. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, and as always leave your comments because you know I'll always reply you. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.